Welcome, everyone. Today is July 18th, 2024. This is the biweekly SIG Instrumentation meeting. We don't have anything on the agenda today, but we probably should update on the Z pages status proposal. Richa, so how's that going?
So I have shared the proposal on an email thread with SIG Architecture. I have got some review comments from Neolit, I think. Kind of addressed most of them, but the only standing out one is about sharing the proposal with SIG Auth and getting their feedback also on the same. So I've reached out to Jordan Liggett for that. And he said he will take a look. So I'm waiting for this.
I would also put it on the SIG Auth agenda and go to the SIG Auth meeting.
Okay. I will have to check if I need to share this like similarly in a email thread before I go to the meeting. I don't know how their process goes.
I mean, well, maybe meet with Jordan first and see if he's okay with it. If he's okay with it, I'm sure you won't get pushback.
Okay. Okay.
But if he thinks it's contentious, then maybe we should go to SIG Auth.
Yeah.
I think system monitoring should be fine, though, personally.
Yeah, I did respond to the comments saying that we were thinking to rely on systems monitoring, but I haven't gotten a response back on that. So
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially a privileged group. So, and it's has access to all the Z's and metrics endpoints. So it's should be the same class of people that would use Z pages.
yeah. And I guess oh, go ahead. Somebody was saying.
Sorry, I think I must have missed this particular, or must have missed last one. Is this also a group we could use for tracing?
Yes. Hold on. Let me find it. Do you have the PR actually, Richa? I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I have it. I found it. I added this a long time ago. It looks like 4 years ago. Basically, we have the system monitoring group. It's a bootstrapped group, bootstrapped auth-Z group, and it has access to all the health Z endpoints and the metrics endpoint. And the reason why we have this as a bootstrapping group is because you may want to monitor the cluster before it becomes healthy. So you're not going to be able to create your RBAC, whatever, your role bindings and roles and stuff. And so you need immediate access to these debug endpoints, right? Because if it's crash looping or whatever. So it makes sense for it to be a bootstrapped group.
This is meant for like monitoring agents, right? Not like a privileged
could be monitoring
user.
agents. It could be a user. You could definitely have token-based auth or whatever.
Okay.
Isn't this currently also used for health Z and the metrics?
Yeah. All these.
I think this would be very good for the tracing problem we have. So I might go look deeper into it. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. I made it a long time ago, and I kind of forgot about it until recently. But yes. So cool. We're making progress on the Z stuff. Also, KubeCon is coming up, so we should start prepping for that. I guess it's a ways away. It's still in November. I submitted our talk with our co-speakers. Hopefully we all get company funding. I hear, yeah, it's going to be a little dicey this time still. So, but we can figure it out. The CNCF also recently announced that they're not going to be awarding scholarships to.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah. I don't know. I would still apply for it to see, because I don't know if it's a written policy yet. I think Ben the
Mm.
Elder is arguing against it.
Yeah.
But apparently there have been some companies abusing it.
There is
So
some separate funding, if I remember correctly, which
yes,
is
I would
that,
do both. I would submit for both.
is there some criteria that you have to qualify for in order to apply
I
for the
can't
other funding?
remember, but I thought you got it through the other funding and not the scholarship when
No,
you
I
went.
got it through the scholarship last year.
Somebody did it through the other way. I think it was Wenja. You should talk to
Maybe.
Wenja. Yeah, Wenja did
Okay.
it too late for the scholarship, and she got funding through the other mechanism,
Okay.
I think.
Fair
So
enough.
there, if you can't go, like this was a possible path before. There was like CNCF has scholarships that will fund travel to KubeCon, but they are basically not letting diamond sponsors and above do it anymore, which is a bummer. Especially since most companies have like super restrictive travel budgets these days. Um, but yeah, as we get closer to KubeCon, we can talk about this. Let's see. What dates do we have right now? Okay, so 31st is test freeze, coast freeze has already happened. Release in August, so 132 opens up. I guess we should start thinking about maybe for the next meeting, any new agendas that we might want to advance for 132. David, is there anything you want to do for tracing?
I think we should GA all the, or both the
Okay.
kubelet and the API server stuff.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that that definitely happens this time.
Okay, let's do an inventory over our KEPs next time and see what we need to push forward. How does that sound? Like more organized fashion. I'll put that on the agenda for next time.
Yep.
I'm excited for the Z pages stuff. We kind of need some new initiatives, and this sounds like a pretty promising one.
I have a question regarding the metric stability levels. So CC had pinged on some
Right,
PR
right.
asking if we,
I saw it. I didn't respond. There is no soak time requirements. You can skip stability levels. In fact,
oh, do we intend, like, eventually do we plan to have some sort of requirements for
no,
graduating?
because the thing is, uh, you don't necessarily even have to go through the KEP cycles. You can skip alpha and beta and just go to stable if your feature is like a certain type of feature. Like we've had features skip KEP stages. It
Okay,
happens. So if that happens, then you can also skip stability levels for metrics, theoretically.
I see.
I mean, the stability level of a metric is just a promise to the user that we're not going to break them, right? So
Yeah. But it does feel like there should be some sort of graduation process that should be followed in order to promote a metric in between stages. But I don't know how
I
to
mean,
enforce how will be how will
we're
we
already forcing like manually through the stability framework and the published YAML any graduation of a metric, right? Because like SIG instrumentation must look at any metric that is being graduated from alpha to beta or beta to stable or alpha to stable, right? Because that's what the static analysis framework does, right? It parses the entire Kubernetes code base, it
yeah.
outputs those metrics, descriptors, and we look at them and we hand audit them. And if there seems like there's something sketchy going on, we block it. So, I mean, like, do we have an articulated way of saying what we block? We kind of do, right? We don't have like excessive cardinality, right?
Yeah.
You cannot remove labels, right? Once you are stable. If you're in beta, you can't remove labels. You can add labels, but you can't add
Right.
labels when you're stable. Yeah, like these are the rules. Those are the rules for each thing.
Okay. But there's no time bounds for the
So if
metrics to
people are
happen
trying, yeah, if people are trying to violate those rules, we will catch that in review.
in the review. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And we have like dynamic cardinality enforcement to handle like people exploding cardinality bounds for like a
Yeah.
metric that's stable, right? So we have levers to press if people screw up in other ways.
Okay.
But if you think we need SIG criteria, I'm happy to hear a proposal on it. I don't. It doesn't occur to me that it's necessary, or I don't see what it would do. But I could be missing something. So if you can articulate a reason why it's a good idea, then I'm happy to hear.
Okay. Sounds good.
Just to add to that, so the problem, um, I don't know if this is a problem or not exactly, but what we face in KSM with graduating all the metrics in KSM to some level is going forward we will extract CRS into its own operator, and I'm already working on it, but we tell users to modify the metrics or add new metrics based on their needs. So it basically means that we cannot really move past alpha.
No,
Be-
beta, you mean?
yeah. So they would add, yeah, they wouldn't remove anything, but yeah, we cannot move past beta because that's the kind of promise that we have made in the past, and it's kind of
I
hard to, yeah.
disagree. And here's why. Because you could actually make multiple metrics for, let's say, pods. You don't have to have it in one gigantic metric.
Yeah, so there was actually I can there was recently this PR raised by Manuel, and this was exactly the point Damien raised. Um, and there have been two different so in KSM there's metrics which there's two different types of metrics that operate on nested fields in different ways. So if there's a nested field, some metrics have that value as its own particular metric, and it has a lesser amount of label sets. But another metric would try to have an underscore info kind of metric, and that would try to encapsulate everything that's nested within that object. So for example, this comment here. So this was something that went unnoticed, and now we have metrics that exhibit both of these behaviors, where one metric would have an underscore info suffix, and that would try to encapsulate every single value in its label sets, causing a high cardinality. But at the same time, there's other metrics which expose these nested fields as their own metrics. So yeah, the users opening issues, they can just point to these metrics and tell us that, this was always the case. So just, let us add more to it. But now there's this need for having a standard or a particular, something in place that,
No, I think we should have a standard, and I think
yeah,
we should have a partitioning protocol, right? Like, here are the base set of KSM metrics. These are the principles by which we derive the general set of labels, and any additional labels that people might want, we fork into additional metrics, right? And then
yeah,
you can join on them to create your higher cardinality metric if you want,
yeah,
right? And what we should do is, like, the stability framework comes with an exit door. We have deprecation policies. So we should make all KSM metrics conformant to our principles and deprecate the ones that aren't, and remove them in some future minor version. so that people can have a consistent experience across metrics in KSM. I think that is the right answer, right? Like,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like that was my opinion also. And that's why I want to do it in a major, because a lot of like
yeah,
the
for sure in
metrics
the major.
themselves never follow the particular stability framework or like any specific warranties that we apply to them. So if we really want to enforce that, we need to rework some of the metrics to
No,
conform
first,
the
yeah,
framework.
here's the steps. First, write the principles by which we
Yeah.
attach labels to the generic set of metrics, the major set of metrics, and then define the rule for additional labels go on additional metrics and how you bifurcate. And then follow that algorithm to derive your metric set, and then deprecate all of the ones that don't follow that protocol, right? But we need to start with a standard first and then derive our metric scheme, naming scheme from that, right?
So
Yep.
Like
ma-
I know
yeah,
at
so
one point we were embedding label names into the names of the metrics, which is not desirable, right? We should not ever embed label values into the name of a metric. That's actually bad Prometheus practice, right?
so Manual is working on a tool um, that would analyze the CRD, and it would actually lend the metric names based on the principles that we kind of have a consensus on. So that should be useful going forward. But yeah, he doesn't have. Um, so I personally favor, a user doing more joins than,
Yes.
we posing metrics that have a higher cardinality.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So that's probably the way that we are going to go. And once that tool is up, we can have a CI check for it. So if anyone tries to add something that violates it, it would just be flagged immediately. Yeah.
And we can expose some Prometheus queries that allow that show how to do joins against KSM, so that like common joins, right? And have some user guide or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because people are going to want to do some common joins, and they're just going to be like, how do I do this? They're going to want documentation for that. So we should just provide that documentation. Like, we should do this thing because it is sustainable for KSM, but at the same time, not make it impossible for users to use. That is my opinion.
Yeah. So coming back to the original question, and I think we have discussed this before, but KSM would not have a stability framework of its own, where basically the beta of Kubernetes means stable for KSM, because in KSM, none of the metrics will go past beta.
I think we should actually have stable, because once we have the principles, we know that the general set of metrics per resource type are actually going to be fixed.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like in the
Yeah.
current state, we cannot have stable.
Yes, but
that's like that doesn't mean that we don't have to go through a rework in order to make that work for stable.
no, we can actually have stable if we
Yeah.
do the thing that I'm describing, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
if we have this rule set, then we know these metrics are never going to change, right? You are guaranteed any query against that metric will always work. That is awesome, right? That query will never break. That is a great property to have. Like, it sucks when
The
your
only
charges
thing we have
randomly
to
start losing.
consider is that so for the nested fields, we are never certain, and I'm thinking more about like the network object, that they will not mutate, because some of these network object gets new fields added every now and then.
Sure.
So for those,
maybe
it
nested
might be
fields are
tougher.
separate metrics and beta.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we can have a core set of stable metrics.
Yeah.
Like top
Yeah,
level
definitely.
name,
Like for the pods,
metadata. Yeah,
definitely.
exactly, right? Status, spec, properties, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything
stuff.
that is not supposed to change going forward, like we can
Right.
put it stable.
Yeah, exactly. We find the common set of fields across core Kubernetes objects. We grab the intersection of them, use that intersection against the core resource types to derive our base set of stable metrics. I think that should be basically the algorithm. And then we have stable metrics and people don't have to worry about us breaking them again.
I
We'll
think
have
it
to break
should be fine to do this for nested values as well, because they don't change as much. And even if they aren't there, so KSM would
Depends
have
on the
its,
metric. It depends on the nested metric, I think. Yeah, nested
Yeah.
field, yeah.
so if it's not there, we would just not expose that metric, right? And I guess
Or have empty
so,
value.
yeah. So it should be fine, I guess, if it's not found. So there's some metrics, for example, in VPAs where recommendations pop up after some time you've created it. So that currently what KSM does is it starts throwing some errors because it didn't find that field.
No,
And we can
so
have behaviors for different nested
I-
fields.
no, but what I like is taking all the resource types, getting the intersection of common attributes, common fields, and using that for the core set of metrics. So pods and the labels are this intersection of fields across pods, endpoints, whatever, right? Daemon sets. Like there is some common set of fields which we can create, right? This intersection that we can use to create a base metric. And then we create additional metrics for resource specific fields. So you have to join those. So if pod has some fields, which you know they're going to exist on pods, but they don't exist in any other resource, then this goes in the second level pod metric, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that way we can have this core set, it's stable, it's uniform, it actually has the same structure. So querying against it is super easy because a query against one resource will work against another resource actually, right? So it's actually quite ergonomic for the user. And then if
Yeah.
you want resource specific stuff, you have to do joins.
Yep.
I think that makes sense as a principle. All right, cool.
I wish Catherine was here as well because she was working on this, but yeah, I guess we can.
Robin had a question in chat. I just missed it. PR2, someone was asking about PR2437. I don't know what this one is.
2435. So this specifically, I found rewinding back to KSM v282, it was possible to have custom metrics on core resources, specifically node. And that wound up accidentally breaking when a change was merged that went into 290. And I want to fix it. I've submitted that PR there. But Mureg thinks that it shouldn't be merged because it's going to blow things up. But I feel my test cases cover all of that. I'm hoping that I had more opinions on it.
I have
Mureg.
the context.
Okay.
So
do you want to?
Yeah. So the thing is, it's not going to blow up anything. It's just that it's going to break the principle behind KSM and the ideas that we had. Because so this feature was never meant to be possible. Like it was like custom resource, the custom resource logic was meant only for CRDs, for users to allow users to create their metrics for their CRDs. But for any core objects of Kubernetes, kubestate metric provides the same default metrics, and no user should need to add their own metric to that set. If they do, then they can open a PR and extend it. But that was never meant to be a feature in the first place. Like, that was a bug.
Configuration is absolutely necessary. So our main use case for it is we have some kube node annotations that are gauges. They are custom kube node annotations, so I would absolutely not expect them to be in KSM itself. I need a way to declare that, hey, this annotation is a gauge and I would like it exported as a gauge. For that reason, it needs a way to custom declare this. I feel CRS is the best way of doing that. Rather than introducing an entirely new separate mechanism to export parts of a core resource.
This needs to be flushed out because we really need to separate the CRD stuff from the regular stuff because it is really two separate code bases. And stuff
So-
like this happens. Stuff like this happens because it's an intertwined code base right now, and people are really focused on CRD metric creation and incidentally concerned about extending core resources.
So, you know, once CRS is its own operator, I guess even then we would not expose. So this is the nested thing we were talking about just now, right? But currently, I guess what you could do is just have the node annotations metric and extract the label value from there, because this is extremely highly a high cardinal metric. And even I think you
Yeah,
would need,
I don't want the gauge as a label. I want it as a value because of the cardinality issue.
yeah, you can relabel that. That's what I meant.
You can't convert, but the initial one when it tries to go into your scraper would be extremely high cardinality, and you don't want that. You need to convert it to a value.
Yeah, so I don't know
I
if
feel like annotation are not necessarily the right place for that as well. Or at least like it shouldn't be the way we funnel data through the monitoring platform. Like normally for those cases, you would have a dedicated metric that would take in that gauge and expose it. We shouldn't need to store that in an object. I don't know what's the exact
The gauge
use case,
is a property of the node. It's not from some external thing.
Mhm. Is it native to Kubernetes?
No, it is custom.
Okay.
Like that's the primary use case. And additionally, and the reason I actually came to this was that we wanted to export some of the node labels in a separate metric as a separate info than cube node labels, because our cube node labels is too damn big. Our metrics team said, no, we have to do something about cutting it down because it was pushing 60 labels on each series entry.
you can customize that. There's a particular flag for that.
No, we have many more labels than that. We already have 60 that we've got selected. That's too many. We have people using 60 different labels in the metrics, and they just need to be moved out, like separated out into multiple metrics, not just one.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We need a principled way of doing this. It is terrible right now and kind of a mess.
And you feel CRS is not the correct way of doing this. It needs to be some entirely net new thing.
I don't know, but
we're talking about core metrics here, right?
yeah, we are talking about nodes. But I don't think annotation are the right place for this kind of stuff. Like it feels hard to expose that much information in annotations. Like maybe having new entirely objects for nodes something could make sense. I don't know. Node metadata or whatever.
The annotation represents a timestamp. And so the timestamp's value is read as an annotation from multiple other processes. It is a property of the node as it exists in our environment. And
Sorry, I realized I did not introduce that my coworker Dave joined. I
Hey,
missed
how are
that
you?
he joined.
I feel like the node annotation is the proper place to store this information based on the way it gets used by other machinery within in our Kubernetes environment. The question is about the mechanism of exposure. So the data, for the data to be useful as far as comparing one time series to another or comparing an event to another outside of Kubernetes, in Prometheus or wherever you're doing your data comparisons, it needs to be the time series value.
Should we just continue this next week? We're kind of over on time, and maybe Manuel will actually be there for the triage, because I think he sometimes shows up for the triage.
No, he's not able to attend. He has a conflict
Okay.
every time. So
Every
he
time.
won't be able to
okay.
attend, but we can discuss it next week for sure.
Offline, maybe. Yeah, or offline.
Or
Yeah.
offline, yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
my only point is that the custom resource state is an encouraged way for people to manipulate custom resources and expose the data, their fields as metrics. I don't really see why the same method wouldn't be made available for core resources separate from the custom resource state, sure, but as a part of Cube State metrics.
Yeah, I can
Me
clarify on that. So
And even to answer briefly also. Yeah, go ahead. But
Yeah.
we need to
So-
close it. So maybe let's just finish it offline so that
Yeah, let's
everyone can
finish this
leave.
offline.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Thanks, everyone.
If you could please join there was a Slack thread we were discussing this, so that's probably the best place that we can continue.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye.